I do not believe in luck. I would say, I've constantly said this and I would say again. You go to 100 places. One of those places happens to be the right place. One of those times happens to be the right time. I am amazing and I bloody know that. When you are sharing vulnerability as a leader, you are creating a psychologically safe place.
Hey everyone, welcome back to today's episode of the Cybersec Migrant. And today is an absolute treat because we're diving into an incredible story of resilience, ambition, and community, especially community building within tech. So if you are an immigrant or trying to break into the industry, or just someone looking for ways to build a strong network, you want to stick around for this one because this is going to be good. Today I'm joined by one of the amazing minds behind Tech2Step. Tech2Step is a game-changing initiative that helps immigrants step confidently into tech careers. So we're talking about overcoming barriers, the power of networking, and what it really means to lead in cybersecurity and technology. So let's jump right in.
Where are we
My
jumping?
guest today is the Vice President of Tech2Step. Welcome, Manisha, to the Cybersec Migrant.
Woohoo! All right, mate. I should tell you that was so flashy when you said it. When people like these introduce me, I feel so important, right? And
You are.
even though I am not, no, I am not. I can tell you. But the point is, I feel so important when I'm on stage and I'm talking to people, and a third person introduces you. Oh my, that is very exciting. And thank you for that mild introduction and calling me the vice president. Such a flashy title I have. Nonetheless, hi everybody. Welcome to the Cybersec Migrant podcast. I am also a podcast host. So we are going to be chatty this morning. It is morning and we are doing this over a weekend.
That is so true. That is so true. And hey, by the way, for those who don't know, Monisha actually has a public speaking course lined up very shortly. So there's going to be a link down in the comments below. You can actually check that out, sign up for my newsletter, and get some information there about that. So if you're looking to public speaking or sort of speak in front of the camera like this, like what we're both doing, that's what you need to do. So what exactly is Tech2Step? And what was the inspiration behind Tech2Step?
Inspiration is very simple. We want people to come together. So when Tech2Step started, it was a group of women who met during a conference in Calgary and came back to Vancouver and decided, hey, you know what? We are all from Vancouver. We met in Calgary. We should connect again in Vancouver. That's it. Very simple. And that's how it started. And let's be honest, not immigrants, all immigrants have the money to afford to go to Starbucks every time and drink a coffee of $8 tall coffee.
True.
And we wanted to think about the idea of free networking. And how does that happen? Turns out walk and talk is an amazing experiment. And that's how Tech2Step started. So people gather together every Friday near Science World. Now that we have so many cities already up. However, we started in Science World. People would walk around the Science World globe, as big as it is, and then we would introduce ourselves. We would learn about each other. We would swap partners and learn more about each other, and we will connect with each other on LinkedIn and stay connected. So that is the idea behind Tech2Step. When it started, it was 5 women walking together, and more women came along, and it initially became a women-centric, tech-driven networking walks. But turns out many people need networking. Shouldn't be women-centric. So it has become women plus. 85% of our community members self-identify as female, and we started as 5 volunteers and now we have close to 25 volunteers. Our presence in cities has grown from just Science World Vancouver to at least 8 plus cities. We are present in New West, Surrey, North Vancouver, and we are even in Toronto. And now it has grown. Yeah, even in Toronto. And now, yeah. And then now we are growing and growing. Our team is becoming bigger and bigger. Our social media team has 3 people. There are 2 graphic designers, 4 board members, and event managers, program managers. That's becoming huge. It's a lot of work.
A little very large organization. Which was that what you planned it was going to be? Did you envisage this when you started Tech2Step?
I don't think so. The group of women who started it did not assume it would become this big. There has been moments, right? So when we I joined later. So when I joined, it was like 2022 October, I think, October or July. So when I started, it was a small community of people walking together, learning about each other, just having friendly conversations. And the fire within us pushed us to do more and said, hey, you know what? Let's register it as a nonprofit organization. And that's what we did. And we pushed each other's boundaries, kicked each other's in the butts. Strong,
You need that
strong kick.
motivation
Yeah,
sometimes.
I know. So we kicked each other in the butts and said, you know what? What the heck? Let's try it out. And
Let's do
today,
this.
there has been moments where we wanted to just shut down Tech2Step, and we said, "What are we even doing right now? Why do we even need it? We are not making sense out of what we're doing." Universe conspires, right? So
Mm.
when you want to achieve something, universe comes together in very weird ways, and that's how people who are random strangers who became networks through Tech2Step came together and said, "You know what? We will help you out, and we will volunteer for you." And that core team still exists with us. I would like to give a shout out to Dolan, Dhruv, Deepika, and now the team has become bigger and bigger. And we have a Toronto leader as well, Kurshid. So shout out to her too.
I love that. You've got this personal journey as an immigrant, and that has sort of played into what you do at Tech2Step. But I'm curious, how did that experience as an immigrant shape the vision behind Tech2Step? How did that happen?
Very good question. I'll have to talk about Christine, who is the president of Tech2Step. She is the brain behind Tech2Step's vision. If I have to give you an example, when she built Tech2Step and when we started talking about Tech2Step, she said we should give immigrants the opportunity to be in leadership positions. So when I say
True,
leadership position,
true.
board leadership, right?
Yeah.
It feels like, oh, what big is board going to be?
I
Is
know
it
the
just a
feeling.
title and all of that, right? It is natural to feel that way. Oh, I have a thumbs up. So it is natural to feel that way. But then it is when you deep dive into the board responsibilities as an immigrant and as a newcomer, you realize that you're learning about decision making, you're learning about conflict resolution, you're learning about crisis management, you're learning about leadership qualities without having to be in a corporate leadership position. Now, does that add value in Canadian experience? It absolutely does. And that is something she wanted to do. And that's how we moved and we invited more immigrants. And today we have close to, when I said 85% self identifying female, we have 80% immigrant driven community with us at Tech2Step. Did we envision it that way? Not. Absolutely no way.
I
but the
know.
idea but the idea is it has become so diverse. We have people from African continent. Yes, Africa is a continent, just so if you didn't know. African
Some don't know.
continent.
It's not one country.
Yeah, it is not a country, it's a continent. So we have people from African continent, Asia, all parts of Asia, right? So when I say Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, all parts of Asia, and we have people coming from Europe. The
As well,
beauty
yeah.
is when they come to the community, they are not people who belong to different countries. They're all immigrants facing the same challenges and similar expectations and similar growth. And that is what brings us together.
Yeah. And I think that's very powerful because I think for any movement to be a success, there has to be a mission, right? And that's what gets people very excited. Initially, there was 5 people, and then Dolan and Drew and Kushida, and they were like, "We can see a vision, and we think it's a great vision, so we want to be a part of that vision." So that's the vision. What is the mission of Tech2Step, and what's the response being like within the community to what that mission is? Because I know, like I just said, Christine, she was supposed to be here today, but we're not able to have her here today. I just
She is
today.
busy, mate. She's
Yeah,
busy.
so I know she's a
She does things
Wonder
unlike
Woman.
us.
Yes. So, but again, like I said, she must have had that vision, but then that vision had to translate into the mission, and then you had to translate that to the members of Tech2Step. So what is that mission? Can you clarify it for us? For those who are listening, and what's
Very
the
good.
response being like?
Very good question. I would say I will relate it to my own experience and I'll tell you how that drew me into joining Tech2Step and how it has evolved over the years. When I moved as an immigrant, just like you, just like everybody else when they move as an immigrant, you don't know shit about Canada.
No, nothing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
I agree.
When you go through that PR process or application
Don't
process,
remind
right?
me.
Yeah, I know.
Feel
It
so
is a traumatic experience, mate, now that I think about it. So when you go through that process, the scrutiny that has, or I don't even know if I said the word right. So the point is, when you go through that process, the professional experience they ask for, educational experience they ask for, and whatnot. So, oh,
credentials.
this is amazing, right? They are looking for people who have the credibility and the capability and the ability to be amazing in this economy, and that's how they are bringing us home, the new home. I'm like, yeah, I am that person. I can be
You
that
go there,
person.
and
Yeah,
then
and then I'm gonna be amazing.
you get here and it's different.
Yeah, it's different. And one of the most interesting
Challenging, different
things,
also, not just
yeah,
different. Very
uh,
challenging.
and one of the things that you realize you have to do is build a network. Now, let's be very honest. Network in itself is very different. How to build networks, how to build a networking ecosystem in itself is very different from country to country. Now
Yeah,
we talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
professional experiences, right? Great. Organizational culture, great. Country's work culture, great. But even networking is different from country to country. The
Absolutely.
country that I come from, networking is like pick up the phone, make a call. Hey, you know what? I have this person. Can you just give them a call and recruit for this position, or maybe have an interview for this position? You can say
Yeah.
no later, but at least give them the opportunity. Just that one phone call
Mm-hmm.
would
Mm-hmm.
make wonders.
Yeah.
Just that one phone call would make wonders. It does
It's
not
not the
work like
same.
that here.
No. Wait,
Yeah.
welcome to Canada.
Welcome to Canada. I know, right? I do not know if Nigeria works the same way.
Nigeria works just like India, just like India.
Okay.
I know my first two jobs that I ever got were because I knew someone who called someone and said, "Hey, I have this person. He's going to be a good fit for your company and he needs a job." And they're like, "Okay, I'll give him a job." Just because I knew someone. Was I
Exactly.
qualified?
Exactly.
Yes. But I knew
Yes.
someone. So
Yeah. Exactly. That's the point, right? Most of my opportunities back in my home country, I would apply through LinkedIn. The most recent job that I had back in my home country, the HR head reached out and said, "Hey, we are hiring." And then I said, "Yeah, I'm willing to chat." That's it. And then we had an interview and then we figured it out. That's it. There was no application tracking system or
yeah,
networking
yeah.
or no shit like that. We just reach out. We are shameless when it comes to reaching out to people.
Yes. If you don't reach out,
And
you don't get what you want.
I say that with pride, right? It is not a shame. I say that with pride.
Mm,
Moving here, networking is very different. What do I mean by different? Different means that people value connection in a way. Connection is looked at as a relationship and not just something that
mm,
you draw out of.
mm.
So, to
Yeah,
change
yeah,
that mindset, to make that mindset shift, takes a lot of time for immigrants or anybody, right? Anybody, it takes a lot of time.
yeah, yeah. It does.
And how it ties into Tech2Step, we are building a community where networking is free. That is the vision. When I said Starbucks $9 is a lot, and it feels like $9, man, how hard can it be? $9, 100 people is a lot. If you
Yeah.
want to network with 100 people and if you want to go to Starbucks every time, what about the transit cost? Or if you're driving, what about the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
gas cost?
Mm-hmm.
What about the
Mm-hmm.
going and sitting and spending your time, which
Yeah.
time is money in Canada, every
Absolutely.
hour
Yeah.
count, right? So that is a lot of work. So what we wanted to do is we want to bring people together and bring them to a place where networking can be psychologically safe, inclusive, and also they get to do it for free.
Yeah.
So that's how it began. When we started it, we were just doing it in Vancouver. So people from across cities would travel to
See?
Vancouver. Now we have presence across cities as well. Now that you're in
Yeah.
Calgary, you should start a chapter there.
We can think about that. Although, well, we'll come back to that. Let's talk about some real challenges. What would you say are some of the biggest hurdles in your experience that you've seen that immigrants face when they're trying to break into the tech industry? Because again, I have my own experience, but I am one of those that I think I was lucky. But not everybody's experience is like mine. What would you say? Biggest challenge in your experience?
Not giving themselves enough time to learn about what crisis they are in. Everybody goes through a crisis,
That's
right?
deep. That's deep.
Everybody goes through a crisis. The crisis is different for different people. I
Yeah,
don't deny
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
You come from a privileged background, the crisis is different. You come from an underprivileged background, the crisis is different. You are running away from a war zone, the crisis is different.
yeah.
You are
True,
running
true.
away from excellent career, you were in director position already, the crisis is different. So the crisis is different for everybody, but people do not give themselves time to understand what they are going through. I have seen people who come as married couple and have split because the crisis has been so challenging
Yeah,
that they cannot
yeah.
stay together anymore, which is just heartbreaking, right?
Very,
To
yeah,
go through that trauma, it requires people coming together. We are not immigrating irrespective of the industry, tech industry, any industry. We are immigrating with nobody knowing that you know here. And I don't believe in luck. I do
yeah,
not believe in luck. I would say, I've constantly said this and I would say again, you go to 100 places. One of those places happens to be the right place. One of those times happens to be the right time.
yeah,
You are not going to find you're lucky you were at the right place at the right time. Nah, mate, nah. I was unlucky 99 times, but then that one time clicked for me. And that one time clicked because I consistently put that effort. And same goes with everybody else. Relentless hard work is what is required. But when you look at relentless hard work, in your home country is different, and in this new country where you know nothing, where you're going through a crisis, the mental pressure. And when I say that, people move in adulthood, right? Especially when
yeah,
you're
yeah,
in your late 20s or your early 30s, you're already going through midlife crisis then. Right? You're already going through midlife crisis, upon which
Mm,
you are going to challenge yourself to face another crisis, which might include putting your children in education or finding them the right schools for them or finding a place where you feel like you belong. And many people I have seen, they find this freedom when they move to Canada, and they do not take the right advantage of it. They take the
yeah,
wrong
yeah,
advantage of it.
yeah.
They want to try out new things, great, amazing, but is it aligned with your goal? Freedom is important.
True, true,
So let's assume
true.
I the culture that I was raised in, I wouldn't say it's the same for everybody who are coming from the country that I came from. The culture I was raised in, women are supposed to dress a certain way, speak a certain way, behave a certain way. You have to come back home a certain time. You cannot go out by yourselves. If you take public transit, you are supposed to put your head down because you are supposed to be feeling ashamed because people are going to touch you in weird places. It's not a complaint, right? The culture is different in different countries. When you move here, or people who are coming from a very conservative background, when they move here and they experience that freedom, I'm not just talking about one gender here, I'm talking about all genders. When they experience that freedom, they do not take the advantage of it in the right way. I think that is the biggest crisis people. Deep, wasn't it? I am
Yes, it
so
is.
proud of me.
It is. It is. And I think the thing is this. I think for many people, especially from those who are coming from a not as developed country to a place like Canada, the bright lights and neon signs and all the various Starbucks and Tim Hortons and all these various stores, they're like, wow, this is a completely new world. And it's easy to get sidetracked. And then a crisis happens because you suddenly realize, wait, I don't have any money anymore, and things are very expensive. And I remember when I first moved, one of the things I always did was every time I went to the store, I was going to buy something, and I saw a price, $5. I would, in my head, before I actually picked up anything, I was like, okay, if I convert that to the currency back home, what is
Oh
that?
my.
And I'm like, I'm buying this for that much. No, I'm not buying this. Is there a cheaper option? So that's one of the things you face as a new immigrant. Especially you don't have a job, you're trying to find your feet. All of these things are there. So it is a challenge. But here you are, you've successfully done it. So, what were some of the key strategies that helped you as you did this, as you got to where you are today? What are the strategies that helped?
Question. Success is different definition for everybody. Let's be very clear about that, right?
True, true.
For some people, success is, hey, you know what? I get up in the morning, I work out, I go to work, I come back, I spend time with my family. I am very successful. Great. That is amazing. Actually, that's the very good definition of success. In my head, I still feel like I am not successful. Is that imposter syndrome? No crap. I'm not invited. I don't have a no shit imposter syndrome. Okay. I am amazing and I bloody know that.
Good.
Okay. I don't have no imposter syndrome. Okay. Let's be very clear about
You
that.
deserve a seat at the table.
Yeah, I deserve it. I worked hard for it. It does not just pass right by me, right? So for me, in my head, I'm still not successful. Why do I think that way? Because I can keep pushing boundaries that way.
Yeah.
So something that I realize is that putting yourselves out there, that is the first strategy it has always worked for me. It is not the same for everybody. What has worked for me is putting yourselves out there. Why is that important? I have said this multiple times. I consider myself shameless, and I know you do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I use that word is I am unapologetically, authentically myself. If you think you are not aligned with my behavior or my personality or my leadership or my experiences, it is your loss, not mine. Which means you can walk away. Feel free to walk away. I don't have a problem with that. So I can build the right connections with people who know that I am authentic enough for them to embrace the kind of person I am. And I would embrace the person that's standing in front of me the way they are. I'm not going to question your senses or capabilities or abilities or skill set or knowledge or experiences or education. Nothing. You are who you are. I am who I am. Let's do this together. That is what has worked for me. I reflect that on my leadership as well. I'll give you a simple example. Many people do not even know they micromanage.
True.
I want to call that out. Example, if I have to give you, if somebody do not have the patience or they do not have the skill set to delegate, what they do is, oh, I don't have the patience to explain to you. Let me just do it myself.
Yourself, exactly. Yeah.
Right? That is the very
I'm
definition
guilty of that
micromanaging.
sometimes.
Everybody does. Because you think in your head you don't have the patience to explain to them. Right? What we see that as this is an emergency and this emergency needs to be solved immediately.
Now.
And now, because the country that we come from, everything is now. And that urgency behavior translates you to becoming a micromanager. And this is one of the most important reasons why new immigrants do not land in leadership roles. Because they do not realize they end up micromanaging. Because they do not know how to explain. Because the culture is very different. The way you speak or the number of sorries you say, number of thank yous you say, right? It is very different. When my boss thanks me, in my head, I am always thinking, is he asking me to get out? Is he being sarcastic? Or is he really thanking me? Every time I am like option A, option B, option C, option D, none of the above. So
it's always a good option. You should always have a none of the above. Always. I agree.
Yeah. So the point is, so when immigrants they have already been in leadership positions and they want to move into a leadership position and they want it very quick, that kind of impatience they have translates into them becoming micromanagers. You lose that trust factor. And I have seen a lot of immigrants do that. I have not experienced a lot of people who are born here doing that, which is very strange.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Now, that does not mean all the people who come from different countries are micromanagers. No, that's not what it means at all. That means that the delegation skill, the skill that you need to improve, you have not identified that. And that is what is important.
I completely agree. I think that makes a lot of sense because, again, if you don't know there's an issue, how do you start to solve the issue? So you have to first realize that there is an issue and then you can solve it. Hey, Cybersec Migrant listeners. If you're enjoying the show, help us spread the word. Share the Cybersec Migrant podcast with your friends, your colleagues, and your network. It's the best way to help others discover our awesome content and to join the conversation. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and any other place where you get your podcast, so you never miss an episode. And do hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Your support helps us keep bringing you more valuable content, insights, and stories, and all these tips from the world of cybersecurity. And thank you for tuning in. And now, let's get back to today's episode. We'll come back to leadership in a bit, but I want to change tack a bit and talk about something else. We're recording this in March, which is International Women's Month. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring, another great woman. I had a conversation recently with Reka. I will put a clip to that conversation up here. We spoke about, how a lot of women don't get into the entrepreneurial space or, founders. And she gave me a stat that was like, of all the businesses that get funding, that get grants and all of that, only 3% of them are actually women founded, organizations, which is shocking. So there's 97%, and only 3%. So talking about things like diversity and inclusion and equity, which is under challenge right now, Tech2Step is really committed to diversity and inclusion and equity. What are you, as Monisha and as Tech2Step, what are you most proud of when it comes to this?
All of our board members identify as female. And
Fantastic.
they are from different countries. All four of them are from different countries, different ethnicities, and they speak different mother tongue languages. I'm sure they speak more than one because we are immigrants. Right? So that is something that I'm very proud of. Even when we started or when we registered as non-profit organization, and I was like, we are going to give opportunities to people who otherwise will not receive this opportunity to be in that leadership. And that is something that I'm very proud of. Number two, when we bring in volunteers, I am very proud that we are building a psychologically safe community. So when I say psychologically safe, what does that mean? Every organization has its own definition of psychological safety, inclusion, and all of that. For me, psychological safety is you have to be able to call out your boss if your boss is making a mistake. Simple.
Yeah.
Blame me, alert me. For all means, you just tell me if I am going wrong. And I work on creating that safe space so that people can be comfortable enough to say, hey, Monisha, you're wrong. Or hey, Christine, you're wrong. And hey, anybody, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I have a different point of view. I want to point that out. That is something that I'm extremely proud of. And apart from that, what am I proud of? We give people the opportunity to take on leadership. So let's be very clear. When somebody says, hey, I am comfortable being an individual contributor, no problem. We cannot force them into leadership. Everybody's career path is different.
Yeah.
Everybody's
so true.
Knowledge is different. People want to grow in different ways, right? They can be technical specialists or they can be leaders or executive leadership, whichever way. We give them the opportunity to lead within the organization. It could be just leading two people, it could be leading three people, or you're doing it for the first time as a manager or a leader. Nonetheless,
it is scary. Yeah.
It is going to be extremely scary and you're going to make a lot of mistakes, which is absolutely fine. But we are willing to take that risk because we believe in you and we want to give you that opportunity. Some of them have told us, you know what, this is great, but I don't want to do it, which is fine, right? Which is absolutely fine, which means that they have clear clarity on where they want to go. Leadership is not what they want to take, which is great. So those are the things that I'm extremely proud of, especially through.
That's true. And I think it's so important, the importance of inclusion, especially with the diverse nature of most of our communities. And I think that's one of the things that makes Canada such a beautiful place. It's a multi-diverse tapestry of cultures and peoples. So it's always going to be better if you have this multiple points of view than just one thing. Again, think about it. What would life be like if all we all ate was peanut butter sandwiches every day? But now we have, peanut butter sandwiches. We've got the naan, we've got the butter chicken, we've got the jollof rice, we've got so many things. Variety is the spice of life, and that's what's so good. That what makes Canada so good. But talking about companies, what can companies do to better create workplaces that are also inclusive, that make their people feel like they truly belong?
I recently, on my podcast, Newcomers to Trailblazers, he's going to put out a link.
Yes.
So recently, when I had a chat, I interviewed one of the HR leaders in Vancouver.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So she is Filipino. She moved when she was 10 years old and she has achieved a lot and she is in a leadership position. You are from like underrepresented groups, right? And something that she said really it hit me hard, because you have to treat people like people. That is what
Yeah,
organizations
yeah,
miss on.
yeah, yeah.
Many organizations treat people like you're a list in an Excel.
A statistic.
Yeah, 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 a row, right? Not forget about statistics is a very big word. You are a row in an Excel. You have an employee ID. That's what they look at, right? You have an employee ID. This is how much you contribute to the company. This is your workforce quality. That's it. That's all they look at. But what organizations should do is treat people like people. Now, like I already said, many organizations have inclusion policies, safety policies. Having those policies in place matter, but what matters is how are you implementing them. Having 100 policies does not mean that you are actually doing
The
amazing job.
100 is too much.
Yeah, 100 is too much. But trust me, mate, if you go to big companies, you're going to find 1,000 policies
Oh, I
on the
know. Oh, I
intranet,
know. I
and you're
know.
gonna hate them. I've never understood many of the policies, even though I'm an HR. But the point is, when you are implementing those policies, when you are standing up to the policies that are written, that really matters. Say example, many CEOs that I have seen, psychological safety in the companies that I have worked has been a big priority. Safety in itself has been a big priority because I've been working in heavy industry. So when I say heavy industry, oil and gas, mining, construction, real estate, shipbuilding, all of
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? Safety is a very big priority there. The country that I come from, crying is seen as a shame,
Yes. You
right?
cry. What are you
Yeah,
doing? Pull up your big boy pants.
yeah, exactly, right? Crying is seen as a shame. And I have had bosses who have told me, I'm going to make you cry. And people take pride in that, which means that I'm giving you such hard time, you will cry and you will learn from that you're crying, some crap like that. That is a very psychologically unsafe place if you did
Yeah,
not know
yeah.
what psychological being not safe means. So when I talk about these industries and safety is a priority, I have seen personally CEOs cry, man. They show vulnerability to their own people. They talk about how they are feeling, what anxiety they are going through with the changes in the organization or with the changes in the market, or if there is a merger and acquisition. People talk about it. That amount of transparency matters, and that transparency is going to build a psychologically safe and an inclusive place. When you are sharing vulnerability, this is very important, and this has to come out as a short video somewhere. When you are sharing vulnerability as a leader, you are creating a psychologically safe place. I have seen managing directors cry, business development leaders cry, I've seen CEOs cry, CFOs cry. The point is, they are not scared to show their vulnerability. They are not scared to show, this is what I am feeling. I am feeling anxious, I am feeling worried, I am feeling annoyed, I am feeling very uncertain. And that, talking about it, changes a lot of things that should matter in organization.
That is so true. I think one of the things is that a lot of people don't realize that again, vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It's I think it's a sign of you truly know who you are, and again, you can leverage on different parts of what your personality is like to be the best version of yourself. So I think that's so important. Just before we jump into leadership, there's one more question I actually want to ask, and that's what is your best advice for women and underrepresented groups who want to not just survive but thrive? What's your best advice for people who are like, who look like you, or maybe don't look like you, identify as women, or who are again underrepresented groups? Because that's the key part. Because if you're represented, if you're mainstream already, you have a head start. But for those who are not, what can they do to survive, to thrive, not survive?
Have different starting points, right? So
Yeah,
irrespective of their starting points, what I would say is, be willing to walk away from a situation if you're not happy with that.
absolutely. That's
Be
why you have
willing
legs.
to, yeah,
You have
that's
the
why you
tree.
have legs. Yeah. If you are think you are underpaid, you stand up and ask for it. If you are think you are disrespected, you stand up and you call that out. If you are feeling left out, you stand up and say, hey, you know what, you are not learning about my opinion and I am not comfortable with that. Say that. The most important thing is you should be willing to walk away from a situation that makes you uncomfortable. It's not going to be easy at all. Many people in power, if you look at a lot of leaders in power, leaders in authority, decision making power that they have, many would say this because they did it and that's why they are there. Be willing to walk away from a situation. You're not happy, walk away immediately. Does not matter. And if they look at that in a way that they feel that you are scared, it is their loss. They will be in the same place. You will be
Yeah, I
growing.
agree. I agree.
If
I
you are willing
agree.
to walk away, you will grow out of it. You will grow so
Exactly.
much that the person who mocks you will be in the same place that they are.
Yep, that's true. That is so true. I remember there's a saying we have back in Nigeria. Don't think because one door closes, another one won't open. You need a door to close for another one to open.
Yeah.
Feel free, walk away if you are in a bad situation. There's nothing that says you have to stand there and take shit, like you said. There's nothing that says you have to stand there and take that from anybody. You don't have to. You're not a 4-year-old anymore. You should be able to advocate for yourself. This is what I want, this is what I deserve, and go for it. Because if you don't go for it, how are you gonna actually get it? No one hands things out willy-nilly. It's not a charity shop. So that's very important. Thank you for putting that out there. Now let's come back to leadership because I wanted us to talk about this. In your view, what does great leadership look like in tech, non-tech, but what does it look like?
Very good question. Leaders don't work for the organization, leaders work for the people. Very clear, right? And to me, I work for my people don't work for me. That is something that I'm constantly thinking. When people say, leaders say, I am giving my team freedom to do what they want, freedom is already there, mate. You have to create a space where they are comfortable enough to take it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
cannot give
yeah.
freedom, it is already there. So
That is
especially
true.
with tech to
That is
step,
true.
I'm specific about you have an idea, great, let's talk this out, and you tell me what support I can provide for your idea to come alive. That is how I approach it. And for me it matters that my people, when they come to me, they should not look at me as, oh, she has a certain position and I am gonna have to behave a certain way to be
Yeah,
comfortable. No, no, I am human, you're human. I am no better than you are, right? Irrespective of where we come from, we are all in the same place doing the same work, and a title does not change that. What changes it is people with those titles have the decision making power. But you know what I have realized over the years in leadership? When you let people decide, they feel extremely empowered. They feel like they
yeah,
belong
that's
in the
true. That's
organization.
true.
And that is how their accountability grows. So when I am posed with a decision, I go back to my team. What do you think we should do? Why do you think that is right? What is
Yeah,
the best advice you would give? So when you do that, they feel involved and they feel extremely empowered because the
yeah.
decision comes from them. Some would say consulting is a great way to go, but consulting takes a lot of time. What are
Yes, and
you
effort.
wasting? Yeah, but what are you wasting by saving that 1 minute and 2 minutes? What are you wasting? Nothing. You are not
Yeah,
losing anything by actually consulting with your team. Let them decide. You know what strategy organization wants to go towards, and you know what vision you have set for the organization. That is great. You have to empower your people to let them decide that's aligned with the organization. Now, alignment is my job. Decision making isn't. The people with title, they do not get to decide. They don't have to decide. Their job is to make sure that the decision that's made by the team is aligned with the vision. If they are not aligned, I call them out and say, how is that aligned with the vision that we have? Could you explain?
yeah, yeah,
Tell
yeah.
me more. Is that it? That's it. As simple as that. When you create or when you give people that opportunity to be themselves, you are building a mountain of courage and trust with them. By
That
doing
is
that,
true. That is
they
true.
are
That is
very
true.
comfortable and they feel safe, and they are going to be open minded to call you out when you are making mistake, and that matters to me.
Yeah. And I think that is so true. It's important to be able to realize that again. Leadership doesn't mean you have to do everything yourself. Now, for those who are looking to get into leadership roles, what would you say are one, the key skills that are needed, and how would you advise them to step up and lead with impact? Because it's one thing to lead, it's a different thing to lead with impact. So, what would you advise?
In a country like Canada, your team is going to be extremely multicultural,
Yeah.
right? Even within the country that I grew up in, your team is multicultural, but at least they are from the same country and
Yes.
you can translate what they are trying to say, right?
Yeah.
I think the same goes for African content as well. Even though you're from
Yeah.
different countries, you can at least translate and you can relate to it.
Because culturally, we're all similar.
Yeah, similar, not the
Exactly.
same, but it is similar,
Yeah.
right?
But here, mm-mm.
Here it is just very different. You
Yeah.
are going to lead people who are not just multicultural, they could be neurodivergent as well, or abilities can be very different for the people, right? Now when we are leading teams with different abilities and different cultural backgrounds or different neurodivergent experiences, you are going to have to listen to them. Sit down, have conversations, and listen to them. When they are coming up with an idea or when they are making up a decision, it strongly depends on how they were raised in their culture or how they were educated in their culture, and it is going to be different from what your experiences are.
It's
You
true.
cannot
It's
tell
true.
somebody, hey, you know what? That's not how we decide, that's not how it's done. That's not how it works here. That is the most common statement I have heard from many leaders here. Oh, that's not how it's done in Canadian work culture. Challenge it then. If you don't think it is done that way, challenge it then. Take pride in challenging it. Do not be, hey, that's how it's done, I'm going to do it that way. The sameness, what do you call it? The cultural sameness is disappointing, actually. So you have to make sure you sit down and you have a chat and listen to them. And even when you are going to split experiences and split job roles to different people, many people have done all of the things coming from different countries. They have done all of the things because we are raised to be generalist. So we have tried
Yeah.
our legs in
Yeah.
everything. Like
Yep.
you do podcasting, you have a cybersecurity course, and you are a cybersecurity expert, and you are still doing it, right? And look at me,
Yeah.
I have a public speaking course, I have a podcast, I have my own full time job, I have a family. We do it all. We are raised as
Yeah.
generalists, and this country expects specialists. So when people give their opinions and experiences and decisions, they are going to come from a place of generalism.
Yeah. That's
So
true.
what you are expecting is specialism. It is okay to talk it out and educate yourselves and tell them, hey, this is what my expectations are, and then we can figure it out together.
Yeah. True.
As
True. That
simple
is
as
so
that. The
true.
most
That
important
is so true.
skill is listening.
Yeah.
Who does? That's it.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. I remember somebody once told me and said, the reason why we have two ears and one mouth is so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Some of us don't take that advice very often, but we should, listen more and speak less. Now, before we wrap up, I have to ask, if you can give just one piece of advice, just one, to immigrants looking to establish themselves, tech, whatever, what would that one piece of advice be?
You're already brave. You have made the decision to leave a country that you grew up in, the culture that you grew up in, and you have made the decision to move. You're already brave.
Yeah.
Believe that you're already brave. Believe in that courage that you already have. And then you push yourselves forward. And if you need somebody who has to push yourself forward, find an accountability partner so they can kick your butt.
Yeah, that's true.
Those
Because
that is
otherwise,
very, yeah.
you can't sit on your behind.
Yeah, you technically cannot. Even if I try, I'm just gonna be angled.
Really agree. I remember telling somebody once, I said, hey, you've moved halfway across the world.
Yeah,
You spent a lot of money,
yeah.
IELTS and WES and forms and
Healthcare.
right of permanent residence fee, all of that. You spent all that money and then you get here and then you say, I am not going to try. Why are you disappointing yourself that way? You've done all the hard work already. There's just a little more left to do. What is left is not anywhere near what you've done already. So important. I think that's great advice. Thank you so much. And if any of our listeners are inspired, I want to get involved with Tech2Step, what's the best way they can get across? How can they get
Very
involved?
good. Very good. So our LinkedIn page is full of whatever you need to know about Tech to Step. Just go to LinkedIn, type Tech number 2 Step Network Canada, and you're going to get all the information. We also have a Luma page. You can search Tech to Step there, or if you Google Tech to Step, you're going to land up at LinkedIn page eventually. Follow us, and we also have an Insta page which is not very active, and I would recommend you follow that because we need followers. And you will get every update that you need in your life. And please walk with us, please join us, build your community, build your network. We are here to help you, and when we need help, we are shamelessly going to ask you as well. So be prepared for that.
Yeah. What I would do is to make your job easier if you don't get involved with Tech2Step. Just look in the description below. I'm going to put
Yeah,
a link to Tech2Step's LinkedIn page and all the social media handles. I'm also going to put a link to Manisha's LinkedIn handle as well as her podcast. She has a great podcast called Newcomers to Trailblazers. At one time, I think it was like a year ago, right? She invited me on
I
the
know.
podcast. We've had some
Yeah,
great conversations. And I think if you're looking for motivation from other immigrants who have done this immigration journey, and are surviving. Well, they're not surviving; they're thriving. Their role model, like she said, is go check out the Newcomers to Travelers podcast. It's a fantastic resource, and there's so many insights that those guests on that podcast share, and I think that would be great. It's been a great conversation. We can go on and on and on and on, but we have to stop at some point. Any final words?
any final words?
Mhm.
Cyber stalk me on LinkedIn. Do not forget, I am super active on LinkedIn. Yeah, and if
Yes.
you have a question, reach out. I reply to all messages. Even if you're sending me, find a job for me, ma'am, I have a template that's designed to tell you I cannot do that. But however, however, I am very active on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn, and the DMs speak if you want to learn more about this.
Yeah, fantastic. That was great. We've covered so much today, career challenges, networking, leadership, making change. And a huge shout out to Monisha for coming on today, sharing your insights. And thank you to our listeners also for tuning in. I also want to shout out, though she's not here today, I want to shout out to Christine as well. She's been very instrumental with Tech2Step. And I think that's a great resource for us. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and if you know someone who can learn from this, send this to them because that would also help them, get some insights as well. And until next time, keep on growing, keep on being your best awesome self, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Cybersec. Migrant. Thank you, Michelle.
Bye,
Yes.
people.
Have a good day, everyone.